Yeah, there we go. We're live.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. How we doing? Oh,
Moving.
it's Conspiracy Day. Ooh, exciting.
Or is it? Maybe that's the conspiracy.
Ooh.
Where have we been? There's a conspiracy for you.
We'll let you ponder that one.
We have been talking about those mysterious men in black, and then we vanish.
Right. One of these days, we just won't come back, and nobody will hear from us again, and all
The
that.
clones will be in our place.
Exactly.
When we start saying there's no men in black, you'll know.
I will never say there's not men in black. So if that ever comes out my mouth, you know it's not me.
Yeah, definitely a clone.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got aviation theme today.
Indeed.
Unintentional. But there we are.
Yeah.
So we got the Denver International Airport and the PanAm Flight 103. How do you want to do this?
I think it's your turn to go first.
Okay, well, this actually surprised the hell out of me. Because the airport opened in 1995, right? So you would think, being a relatively newer building, there wouldn't be a whole lot of interest in an airport. You'd be wrong. We've got everything from Satanism to the New World Order, the Illuminati, Freemasons. It's crazy. So the first one here is that the airport was actually built by the members of a secret society. A lot of them say the Freemasons, some say the New World Order, some say the Illuminati, some say all three. Their evidence for this is a dedicated capstone at the south entrance of the airport that was put in place March 19th, 1994. Underneath this stone is a time capsule that has messages and memorabilia to the people of Colorado, and it's to be opened in 2094. It's granite, and it depicts the square and compasses of the Freemasons, as well as two Grand Lodges and their Grand Masters, which was all it took for some people to instantly go, oh, well, Freemasons are behind it. Problem is, that's what Masons do.
Right. That's what the Freemasons were. They were a Mason group.
Yeah. So when they put the capstone in place, of course they're going to dedicate it to the people in the lodges that had a hand in building it.
Right.
And their generosity, their donations and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
But, no. Something nefarious going on because of the capstone. You can't have Masons without something sinister going on. But on the capstone is also something that mentions a group called the New World Airport Commission, which doesn't exist, which nobody can really explain. But if you look at it, the New World, that's obviously the New World Order.
Of course.
Yeah, well. But here's the thing. There is an article that was published in 2007 saying it's probably more likely a reference to Anton Dvorak's New World Symphony. And that was, it was probably there. The commission was probably formed to start the opening ceremonies for the airport. And just, things didn't quite pan out. So that ended up being on the stone without actually ever coming to fruition. But still, it's there. New World Order. Okay, there's actually a braille tablet above the capstone too, that some people say is a keypad. And if you touch those dots in the right sequence, you'll be able to open the time capsule. Now, what's weird is that there are some modern Masons that actually believe in that one. They say that one is possible.
Interesting.
There was an airport employee who heard of Masons visiting and trying to swipe their membership cards in front of it to see if they could get into the time capsule. Me, if I saw somebody standing outside a capstone swiping their card.
Right, I would be like, "You're nuts. What are you doing?"
Yeah, but
my guess is,
what do I know?
If that is the case, if it is a pass key thingy and you swipe your membership card, whatever, my guess it would have to be a membership card of like one of the Grand Masters or whatever, not just some random guy that joined. They're not going to let anybody do whatever for their secret organization. It's going to be the top people. Funny story, my grandfather was actually part of the Freemasons.
Huh. Mine was not.
He was not a Grand Master, but he was fairly high in the lodge that he was at. So I wonder if his membership card would get us in. I'll see if I can find it.
That's it. We're going to Denver. We're going to film it
next week, live from Denver Airport.
Yeah, maybe you've got to be a certain rank. So, okay. When they built the airport, they built a lot of tunnels underneath the airport, under the main terminal and such, just for baggage and, automated systems underneath the main terminal, because it's easier to do it underground, away from foot traffic than where everybody's at.
Worry about all the passengers and whatnot being in the way,
which has led to speculation that those secret organizations are using those tunnels and rooms and bunkers and whatnot to wait out the coming apocalypse.
Interesting.
So that's where they come in. There is also rumors that about 100 miles away is NORAD, and there's a tunnel from NORAD to the airport.
I mean, I wouldn't be completely shocked to find out that's accurate. That way,
I wouldn't either.
Something happens at NORAD and they can't, do anything there. They can use this tunnel to get to the airport and get out.
Yep.
That's not a secret organization thing. That's just intelligence.
Well, there has been speculation that that's a way one of several ways for them to hide the president.
Right.
Escape to NORAD, take him, get him in the bunkers because it's a friggin' airport. It's massive.
Right. It's going to take a while to search the whole damn thing.
But there are some that say these tunnels are actually home to lizard people.
Damn lizard people.
That's right. So, yeah, lizard people now.
If there's any lizard people watching, nothing against you.
Now, have you seen Us that Jordan Peele wrote, directed, and all that?
Yeah.
The doppelgangers. There are some that think that's actually going on in those tunnels.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, they admit that, there are tunnels. Most of them go out less than 2 miles. It's all automated systems and baggage and whatnot. Most of it isn't even functional anymore. But
it would be interesting to go down there though and look at these tunnels just to see them. I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and the assumption, the conspiracy that it's being used by billionaires for whatever it is,
whatever billionaire.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Now, here's some more conspiracies about the airport. It seems like it never ends. Like if this wasn't enough, no, we're not done yet. Okay, so apparently this one is right out in the open. You could see this one. Anybody walking by could see this one, and it's right there. There are two pieces of art. It's a pair of 28-foot wide murals by artist Leo Taguma. One is called "Children of World Dream of the World." Let me try that again. "Children of the World Dream of Peace." It shows scenes of war and death, anchored by a gas mask soldier wearing both a sword and a machine gun, while the other depicts happy children from around the globe dressed in colorful traditional clothing, laying down their weapons beneath a rainbow of peace.
Interesting.
Yeah. Similarly, there's one in peace, in harmony with nature, that shows children mourning the death of 3 women and the extinction of numerous animals as the environment burns in the background, while the other section of the mural illustrates the children of the world coming together to rehabilitate and celebrate nature. Big deal, right? Okay, war, peace, destroying nature, trying to work with nature. Now here's what the artist said. It's the artist's desire for the people of the world to live in peace with one another and harmony with nature. But, and there's always the but when it comes to conspiracies, a lot of people have focused more on the themes of war, death, pollution, and environmental destruction, even saying that the artwork contains clues and messages about the apocalypse and the inevitable rise of basically the New World Order.
Okay.
Yeah. There's another piece of art by Alex Sweetman called Art Chronicles. It's a photographic series documenting the construction of the airport, which makes sense. If you're spending billions of dollars, why not do that?
Right.
Put it up in the airport, people can go, oh, okay, cool. I mean, a lot of city halls have that. Okay, here's our town, 1800s. Here's our town, early 1900s.
Right.
Here it is, It happens all the time.
The restaurant I used to work at had one for the town they were in. It had like a bunch of different pictures of what the town used to look like and stuff. Like that's not even just a government or a big thing. That's some small places do that.
But it's actually a secret message about the apocalypse. And I'll tell you why. One of the photos is a bison standing in a snowy field.
Okay.
And there's some yellow sunflowers reaching to the sky. And there's another photo of dead and browning sunflowers, which, changing seasons. It's Denver. They get a lot of snow.
Right.
Spring's a thing to be celebrated. But no. Apocalypse.
Interesting.
Yeah. A lot of apocalypse in the airport.
Yeah.
Really just doesn't make me want to go on a plane.
Right.
How do you feel about gargoyles?
The show was really good.
Well, okay. Well, the Denver International Airport actually has 2 small gargoyles atop the columns in the east and west baggage claims areas.
Interesting.
Historically, they're there to protect buildings from evil spirits. The uglier they are, the better protecting they are.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they were used as downspouts, collect rain, and out the rain would shoot out their mouths and whatever. These 2 sit and grin and greet the passengers. But they are viewed by some as harbingers of evil rather than scaring away the evil.
Interesting.
That wouldn't surprise me, Louis. Louis says, I've heard theories this Denver airport is an exchange hub for the Hollywood elitists involved in something I'm not going to say on YouTube because YouTube. Okay, now I have mentioned the horse, right? You and I talked when I first mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
I'll show you the horse. It's supposed to be cursed.
Yeah, I actually the horse was one of the things I was looking at one point when we were first starting the.
Giant blue horse with red eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's 32 feet tall, which is, very large for a horse.
Yes.
It's officially titled Mustang, but the people of Denver know it by the nickname Blucifer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They also claim the horse's mane looks more like Medusa's snakes. It was, I don't know.
This is a stretch.
Yeah, it was created by Luis Jimenez in the 90s. Mid-90s it was commissioned. It was inspired by the bright colors, themes of Mexico's muralists. And hey, celebrate your heritage, right?
Right.
He grew up working in his father's sign-making shop. Went and got a lot of acclaim during his 30 years as an artist, especially his giant fiberglass sculptures. Unfortunately, he was killed in an accident in New Mexico in 2006 when a piece of one of his sculptures fell and severed the artery in his leg.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The horse was actually that piece. I don't want to say the horse. That piece was actually finished by his kids and unveiled in 2008. And actually, it was the horse. So between that and the way the horse looks, some are insisting that the horse is actually cursed. Some claim that his the eyes actually represent one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Although he actually, before he was killed, said that it was to honor the spirit of the Wild West.
Okay.
But no.
Makes sense.
Cursed demonic horse of the apocalypse. Because
that's definitely, something that's going to go up in Denver.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's there for the lizard people.
Maybe.
I don't know.
There's a lizard person in it watching us. They climb through the tunnels and up through the feet.
There's so many weird conspiracies. There is a mining cart carved into the tile of the Great Hall. It's got the letters AU and AG, which are the atomic symbols for gold and silver.
Mm-hmm.
Some are saying it's actually an abbreviation for Australian antigen, which is a deadly chemical weapon that the Illuminati plan to use to secure power over humankind.
What? Oh, I love people.
Like Australian antigen. That's a massive stretch.
Right. People.
Now, the airport itself was actually built, according to some, I'm not saying this, some are saying that the location of the airport and where to build it, those coordinates were given to the architects by aliens.
Why?
It doesn't really say.
To what end?
Because aliens.
I mean,
I got to do this with aliens. Because humans aren't smart enough to do anything on their own. It's always aliens. Just aliens.
Aliens are lizard people.
You're going to build an airport on someplace flat with a lot of clear space around, open sky, aliens.
We couldn't figure out how to do that.
Because it's 100 miles from NORAD. Why the hell else would aliens not want you to build there? They'll just use that tunnel and go sneak in.
Exactly. Because, the aliens need to do that.
So there are also strange markings on the walls and buildings that people claim are codes from members of secret societies or snippets of an unknown extraterrestrial language. Care to know what they really are?
I would love to.
Navajo. Can't make this. I mean, somebody made this shit up, but I'm not making this shit up.
Oh boy.
And here's the thing: is they've actually, instead of like these conspiracies are stupid, the marketing team at the airport is actually embracing them.
Oh, I'm sure. That's fantastic marketing. And it's free marketing. Like, you don't have to pay for this shit. People are just doing it and coming up with this shit on their own.
They actually hosted a museum-style like exhibition called "Conspiracy Theories Uncovered," celebrating some of the more insane theories. They actually had an alien skull and put there.
Oh God, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was planted during the construction of the airport. So, why not,
Yeah.
They also had some ads. One had the horse with laser beams shooting out of its eyes. With the tagline, are we creating the world's greatest airport or preparing for the end of the world? There's another one of the gargoyles and a transportation security administration scanner, and asks, streamline security or more secrets?
That is awesome. I mean, I gotta give them props for leaning into it so hard. Like, that's fantastic.
And these they've got some that depict aliens and lizard people, mysterious tunnels, and a cat in a tinfoil hat. But they've hashtagged them all Den Files, making fun of X Files.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can actually go to denfiles.com. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. You can go to flydenver.com. They've got a PDF of the conspiracies. Oh, here you go. The map, the supposed map of extraterrestrial coordinates. Yeah. And if they're it's so weird. If you use the coordinates to land 51 miles north of the airport, it's very close to Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It's just, like I said, the Australian antigen, which, I don't know.
People are nuts.
Yep. I mean, you could go in on uncovercolorado.com. It's Conspiracy Theories, Denver International Airport. You can actually see the artwork, the work that went into building it, the capstone, the Braille tablet that you can apparently push in sequence. Yeah, I don't know.
It's fantastic.
But here's the other thing. There are some that are saying that if you look down on the airport and study its layout, it's actually a swastika, which is, there are only so many ways you can lay out runways and not have your planes crashing into one another.
Right.
Yeah, so those are the conspiracies around the Denver International Airport. Everything from Masons to secret societies, lizard people, demonic cursed horses.
I mean, I'm looking at it now. I kind of see the swastika thing.
Yeah. But you really got to be intentionally looking for it to see.
Right. Yeah. And that one's a stretch. Because there's extra bits and bobs.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I say you've really got to be looking for a swastika to see the swastika.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. There's Navajo in the airport, right?
Mm-hmm.
The swastika was a Native American symbol long before it was used by Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
So even if it is a swastika, it could be
Right.
another. It could be another, like, tribute to the heritage of the area.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean, oh shit, the Nazis are coming.
Right. The swastika was actually used also in Hebrew for a while before Hitler adopted it to use it for his own bullshit.
It's easier to believe in the conspiracy zone, man, not reality.
I know.
Goddamn reality getting in the way of our crazy thinking.
Right? Sorry, my glasses are super dirty right now. It's bothering me. There, much better. Oh, I suppose it means it's my turn.
Yeah.
All right, so PanAm Flight 103. So here's what happened. This is the facts of what happened. PanAm 103 was a regularly scheduled transatlantic flight from Frankfurt, Germany to Detroit. It had stopovers in London and New York City. Shortly after 1900 hours, on December 21st, 1988, PanAm 103, while flying over Lockerbie, Scotland, exploded. There was, in total, 270 fatalities, 243 passengers, 16 crew members, and 11 residents of the town when parts of the plane landed in the city. With the 270 fatalities, it's the deadliest terrorist attack in the history of the UK. Unless it wasn't terrorists. After that, there was a 3-year joint investigation by Dumfried and Galloway Constabulary.
Constabulary?
What?
Constabulary?
Sure.
Constabulary? It's a weird word, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know what you meant.
Which is essentially just the police force for the Dumfried and Galloway areas of Scotland and the FBI. In November of 1991, arrest warrants were issued for 2 Libyan nationals. I only get the name of one of them. The other one I could not find the actual name of. In 1999, so a full 11 years after the attack, the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi.
Yeah, Gaddafi.
Gaddafi. Yeah. Sorry, I can't pronounce it when I'm reading things.
Yeah, it's when you're looking at it and you try to pronounce it, it's two different things.
Right. He handed over the 2 men at Camp Zeist in the Netherlands due to UN sanctions. In 2001, Abdelbasit al-Megrari was jailed for life after being found guilty of the 270 murders. In 2003, due to UN sanctions, not by choice, but because the UN sanctioned it, Gaddafi took responsibility for the attack and paid compensation to the victims' families. He had to do that because Megrahi was a government official of some sort. He wasn't like super high up in their government, but he was technically a government official. So the UN decided that because he was part of the Libyan government, he had to take they had to take responsibility for this. Gaddafi was very adamant that he never ordered the attack. In August 2009, only 8 years after he was in prison for life, Megrahi was released by the Scottish government on compassionate grounds due to being diagnosed with prostate cancer. He then died in May of 2012, and he was the only person ever convicted for the attack. There was many other suspects, many other people interviewed and but he was the only one ever actually convicted of it. And then during the first Libyan civil war in 2011, the former Minister of Justice, Mustafa Abdul Jalil, claimed that the Libyan leader had in fact ordered the attack. Later, this was denied. So it's very possible that he was just doing that to get some kind of, clout for whatever side he was on during the Civil War. On December 21st, 2020, on the 32nd anniversary of the bombing, Abu Aguila Mohammed Masood was charged in the U.S. as both a conspirator and for making the bomb. Though there are people that believe he did not actually make the bomb. And I'll get to that in a little bit. So, the theories. Okay, so that was all the facts. The theories are that there's many different groups that are being blamed for this. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command, or PFLPGS, Iran, and the CIA are three of the biggest ones. Obviously, people also blame the Illuminati, New World Order. I saw one where the Freemasons were blamed because, they definitely bombed.
Oh, always.
But I'm going to go over the PFL, PGS, and the CIA one because those are the two big ones. So the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine General Command is a Damascus-based rejectionist group led by a former Syrian army captain named Ahmed Jibril. And it is sponsored by Iran, which is where the Iran theory comes from, is that they paid this group to do this. So Mossad, which is the Israeli intelligence agency, allegedly intercepted a phone call made 2 days after the PanAm 103 bombing from, I'm going to completely butcher this name, from Matashimi Por, who's the imperial minister in Tehran, which is the capital of Iran, to the Iranian embassy in Beirut, Lebanon. In this call, the embassy, again, allegedly, in this call, the embassy was instructed to hand over the funds to Jibril and congratulate them on the success of Operation Intiqam, which means equal and just revenge. Jibril is alleged to have received $11 million from Iran, but the banking audit to prove this has never been presented. Supposedly this audit exists, but it's never been presented in any formal capacity. To aid this conspiracy theory, Jibril's second command, Hafez Dalkomoni, who was a Swedish citizen, had set up a PFLPGC cell that was active in Frankfurt and the newest areas of West Germany in October of 1988, just 2 months prior to the bombing. The cell had an expert bomb maker, Marwan Krizat, to assist them. He was a Jordan citizen. The cell did not know that Krizat was actually working for the Jordanian Agency Service, which their initials are GID. So he was feeding them information to what the cell was working on. He was instructed by the GID to make IEDs that looked real and looked appropriate, but were actually ineffective. Unfortunately, there was one officer in Frankfurt that was killed by one of these IEDs while trying to defuse it. The GID was then informed by Krizat that they had been surveying targets for potential attacks, including an Iberia Flight 888, which was supposed to be in towards the end of October was the timetable for that attack. I could not find anything about that actually happening, so I don't know if that one was foiled. The GID was also informed that there was 2 cell members that had been to Frankfurt Airport to pick up the PanAm timetables for their flights. So the GID then actually did in joint operation with the German intelligence agencies and actually did a raid on the cell's, I want to say compound, but it wasn't really a compound. They were basically just working out of like an apartment building. But they raided them. Two members escaped. And of all the IEDs that Crissette had made, one of them was nowhere to be found. They don't know what happened to it. It was just gone. It is assumed that the two escapees took it with them. It was then found out that the same type of bomb that had been used in the PanAm 103 attack, which was a Toshiba bomb beat cassette radio turned into an IED, was a go-to for this cell to use. And to further strengthen this theory, Crissette told his superiors at the GID that when he was trying to get into the cell, one of the ways that he was able to get them to accept him was that he had purchased 5 Toshiba bomb beat cassette radios and made IEDs out of them. These devices were inspected by one of the higher-ups in the cell and found that they were good work. So these ones would actually have worked. The whereabouts of these 5 devices is unknown. After he made them and they were taken by the cell, he has no idea what happened to them. So there is a theory that the cell had planned this thing. After the raid, they went quiet until they were ready to do it, and they did. They bombed this place, or the flight. There was a couple other instances that connected the PFLPGC to this attack, but they were so circumstantial and like far-fetched that I could find very little information on them. One of them that was the leader, Jabril, sorry, actually had a relative on the flight that was going to the U.S. to turn him in and like basically turn in evidence that would get him convicted and whatnot. So he was like, we're not doing that. I'm gonna blow up the whole damn plane. Which I feel like if that was the case, there's an easier way to kill just one guy. But that's just my thought. Now, the real interesting theory is the CIA. This theory is actually 3 different theories in one. All of them are stemming from the theory that the CIA had protected routes that allowed Syrian drug dealers to smuggle drugs, primarily heroin, on PanAm flights in exchange for intel on Palestinian groups that were holding hostages in Syria. I find it very interesting that this connects to Syria, and the leader of the PFLP-GC is also a former Syrian army captain. So I did actually read some things that connected both theories together, saying that that Jabril had actually been in league with the Syrian drug cartels, decided that they weren't doing the job correctly or had some kind of falling out, so he bombed it to basically teach them a lesson, say, hey, fuck you. Excuse me. But that is the overarching basis for the CIA theory. Now it branches off into the 3 different ones. Theory 1 is that the CIA did not know that terrorists discovered the protected route. that they discovered that certain people with various suitcases somehow had a marker either on the person or on the suitcase so that they would not get checked going through security, because the CIA knew they had drugs in them and didn't want that to end. So the terrorists then switched one of the suitcases with a suitcase that had the radio in it. That was actually the IED. I could not find any information as to what terrorists supposedly did this, why they did it, but again, that could possibly connect back to the PFLP-GC. The second theory is that the American intelligence officers on PanAm 103, Matthew Gannon of the CIA and Major Charles McGee of the DIA, had found out about the drug operation or headed to Washington to express their concerns. The Syrian drug dealers found out and switched the suitcases without the CIA knowing to essentially take care of the problem. They can't report it if they're dead, and then they can continue on with their drug running that they have set up. The third theory, and my personal favorite, and if there's any CIA people watching, I don't actually believe this. The CIA knew about the switch in the suitcases and allowed it to happen. The reason for allowing it to happen, so there's a couple theories on this one. A, because they thought, hey, we need to end this deal, and we can't easily just get out of this deal with the drug dealers, so we'll just blow up this plane and maybe they'll stop. They won't want to risk it anymore. The other one is that it was allowed to happen because the drug route was a rogue operation and the intelligence officers on board were going to Washington to inform their superiors. And the people in the CIA that found out about this didn't want to tarnish the reputation of the CIA any further than, it already is, because people don't trust the CIA. So they allowed the switch to happen and allowed this plane to be blown up. Some of the reason this one is my favorite of the theories is there's actually some fairly decent evidence to support it. The biggest thing to support this is the Helsinki warning. On December 5th, 1988, 16 days prior to the attack, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA, issued a security bulletin. The bulletin stated that on that day, the U.S. Embassy in Helsinki, Finland, received an anonymous call from a male with an Arabic accent, saying that a PanAm flight from Frankfurt to the U.S. would be blown up within the next 2 weeks, and a Finnish woman would be an unknowing carrier. So the U.S. government and the State Department cabled the bulletin to dozens of embassies. The FFA also sent the bulletin to all U.S. carriers, including PanAm, which PanAm then started charging each passenger an extra $5 security charge to cover what they were promising as a program that will screen passengers, employees, airport facilities, baggage, and aircraft with unrelenting thoroughness. Clearly, that didn't happen. And this is why this supports, or one of the reasons this supports the CIA, is because the CIA would have intervened and been like, hey, don't do that for this flight. Don't check things. So the day after the bombing, the Frankfurt airport security team were searching, trying to find some evidence to figure out what happened. And they found the warning about this potential bombing under a pile of papers on a desk. Almost like it was stashed away so that nobody would see it to know about it. Yeah. Another big thing that kind of points toward this theory being the most, I guess, reliable would be the word, if a conspiracy theory could ever be considered reliable. During an ABC News interview, one of the Frankfurt security screeners, whose job it was to spot explosives with the X-ray machine, told the interviewer, A, she never heard about this warning, and B, the first time she ever heard of Simtex or learned what Simtex was, which Simtex is a plastic explosive, for those who don't know, and it's the one that was used. The first time she'd ever heard of Simtex or been told what it was during the very interview she was doing, which was a full 11 months after the bombing. So not only did she not ever see this warning, but she was never told, hey, there's this new type of plastic explosive called Simtex. This is what it looks like. This is how you detect it with the X-ray machine. Until 11 months afterwards, almost a full year afterwards, when she was doing an interview about the bombing. So that's I don't want to say I believe it, but that's fairly convincing to me. Take it as you will, obviously. Not saying the CIA did it. I would never say that. I love my country. I love the CIA. But yeah. So that is just some of the theories about the PanAm Flight 103. There was other ones, obviously, like I said, that the Illuminati did it or the Freemasons. There was one theory I was reading that the Israeli government did it because there was talks going between the U.S. and Syria to try to make some kind of peace treaty type of deal, and the Israelis didn't want that to happen, so they blew up this plane and framed Libya. There was talks between the U.S. and Libya, and so the Israeli government blew up this plane because they were like, no, we don't want you to be at peace with them because they're our enemy. But yeah, a lot of interesting theories on that one. But yeah,
and that's one of those things nobody's ever going to know the truth about.
No, because somebody was already convicted of it. That guy's already died. Gaddafi already took responsibility and paid compensation to the families. It's one of those things that what they say happened very well could have. The evidence is there and everything lines up well. Some would say a little too well, but there's also a decent amount of evidence and things that could point to one or two of these theories being accurate, or two of these theories, like I said, meshing. So
it was the lizard people from the airport.
Probably. I'm sure they had something to do with it.
Even though the airport wasn't around until 95.
They shot it down with the lasers from the horse that didn't exist yet.
Yes, that was it. That cursed horse shot the lasers.
Exactly. I think one of the most interesting things about it is that I was reading that one of the reasons that the cassette radios were used and the IEDs designed the way they were is because they could be set off remotely for 45 minutes later or something. They didn't have an actual timer on them. What it was you basically set off the detonator and 45 minutes later it goes off. And one of the things that I was reading was that, potentially the bomber didn't even have to be on the plane. That's one of the reasons that the conspiracy theory is adding to either the PFL or the CIA, is that they could have easily made this switch of suitcases, or hell, even just thrown a suitcase on without anybody knowing, had it go through security and not get checked for whatever reason, because apparently this bulletin was never registered. Nobody knew about this bulletin or whatever. Got on the plane. The bomber could have still been at the terminal, hit the button, and left. 45 minutes later, the bomb goes boom.
Yeah.
I don't know how well that timeline would really work out for being over Scotland, coming out of Germany. I don't know. I would have to look and see, the distance and how long it would take to do that, whatever. But yeah, like the bomber didn't even necessarily have to be on the plane.
Or anywhere near it when it took
Right.
off.
Right. They could have, hit the button and then walked away and been back home eating dinner with their wife and kids by the time the bomb exploded. It's crazy.
It's messed up.
Mm-hmm. So impersonal too. Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's interesting that if it was truly a terrorist attack and had no other connections to anything whatsoever, why that particular flight? And if the bomber was on the plane and it was a terrorist attack, why do it over some small town in Scotland? Why not wait till it gets to the airport in London or New York City and then blow it? Or wait for it to get to Detroit. 3 major cities, and you blow it up mid-air over Scotland? Like that, and that to me kind of, I don't want to say I believe these conspiracy theorists. And I'm not saying that, the PLF or the CIA did it. But to me, the fact that this plane was blown up over the small town in Scotland that probably nobody outside of Scotland had ever heard of before, instead of being at one of the 4 major cities, because you got Frankfurt, London, New York City, and Detroit. Like 4 major cities you could have blown it up at and taken out a whole lot more people, done a whole lot more damage. And let's be honest, who the hell would have reason to blow up anything over Scotland and kill people in Scotland? What does Scotland ever do?
Well, if they did do it with the cassette players, it would have been really hard to plant at one of the cities. Any bomber would have had to have been on the plane to set the detonator off.
Right.
And time it perfectly with the landing.
Well, not necessarily, because like you could easily wait. I mean, how many times, I don't know if you've ever flown, but how many times do you hear about people complaining that, yeah, we landed and then we had to taxi for 20 minutes on the runway, waiting for another plane to get out of the way? And then
but how many times have you heard we had to circle and circle and circle and circle?
Also true. So, I mean, realistically, it wouldn't be that hard to have timed it, as long as the hard part would have been getting it on the plane, which clearly they did. Clearly, that was not an issue. They could easily have waited till they landed and they were about to unboard or disembark, whatever the fucking word is, and then blown it, because they would have been at that point attached to the terminal.
Unless they were just out to make a statement.
And it's also true. And like you said, it's one of those things we will never really know for certain what actually happened and who's responsible, who did it. All we know is what we are told.
Yeah, and we're never going to be told the full truth.
No, about anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying, don't trust your government, obviously. Like, I'm not saying that.
We're never saying that.
Never. Mr. CIA, FBI, never saying that. But at the same time, like, there is proof for pretty much every government in the world that they hide stuff from their people. Like, that's undeniable. You can't deny that. So to think that we for sure 100% know exactly what happened with this flight, it's ridiculous to think that we know 100% what happened.
It's even if they declassify down the road, decades from now, it's going to be so redacted that it's going to be unreadable anyway.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I mean, look at when we did the JFK assassination. They put out documents back in 2009, I think it was, if I remember correctly. they put out documents that were declassified, and people were like, "Oh, well, this doesn't give us much more information than we already knew because so much is redacted that it was public knowledge already."
Well, they were supposed to put some out in December, I think, and I don't even know if they did. They kept saying they needed more time.
Yeah, I never heard about anything actually coming out. But yeah, I remember it was back in December. Yeah, December, like early December of this past year, they were supposed to release even more documents. I never heard anything about it happening.
No. Conspiracy. Joe just forgot where he put everything.
Probably. I mean, it was probably sitting on his desk and he completely forgot about it.
What was I supposed to sign?
What is this stuff all about? Oh, too busy sniffing babies.
Whispering into microphones.
Oh.
And allegedly pooping himself.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
It's all because of the lizard people.
Definitely. I wonder if the lizard people are working for the Illuminati or vice versa. Maybe the lizard people are the Illuminati.
Maybe they're the aliens that gave them the directions to where to build the airport.
I mean, that would explain how the lizard people got there.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, where do these lizard people come from?
Why lizards? That's what I want to know.
I don't know. It's a good question. Probably Star Trek.
They came from Star Trek. Damn Gorn.
Oh, it's actually interesting. Maybe I'll do that for our next conspiracy theory one. I'll investigate the lizard people, see where that all started from.
Oh, shit. Well, what's funny is a lot of these things that you can trace back to pop culture, like alien abductions and the phenomena of the gray didn't start until I think there was a movie or a show on TV that showed was an alien that looked like the gray, and then suddenly people started seeing them. So
right. Yep. It's the power of media.
yeah,
Realistically. Like when War of the Worlds, when that was first done broadcasted over the radio as a dramatization, people were freaking out, calling the government, calling the local authorities because they thought this was actually happening. They didn't realize that this was just a dramatization of a book. They thought aliens were actually attacking the world. It's crazy. The power that media has, and by extension, the power that you and I have as both streamers and as, hosts of a podcast. Like the power that we have and the media has is astounding.
Right in the palm of my hand. Although they did have 3 or 4 top-ranking former defense officials step forward at some convention and say, that there are unidentified craft. They are real. We don't know what they are, and there probably is technology beyond what we're capable of at the moment.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
I read that article like yesterday, so.
Sounds like we might have the workings for our next conspiracy theory podcast. But that's not for.
You mean the number of former officials that have come forward and said, "Hey, yeah, there are things," that immediately
and now
the government comes forward. Well, here's his record. It's less than exemplary.
Right.
Well, if that's the case, why was he one of your top officials?
Right. And how many of those officials have since disappeared?
Right.
But yeah. So next week is.
Don't ask me. I can't keep track.
Cursed objects
again.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, okay.
Yep. Cursed objects.
Those are always interesting.
Yes, they are.
I don't know. I kind of covered that today with a horse.
Yeah, right. You got to pick something different. You can't do the horse again.
I went from everything from the only thing it didn't have was a haunting.
Right. Which I'm sure there's a theory out there somewhere that it's haunted.
Oh, I'm sure. It's probably in that ancient alien script that's on the walls that is just Navajo.
Right. But yeah. Next week we'll probably we'll talk, but I think we're gonna have to do it a little earlier because I have acupuncture at 1:00.
Okay.
So starting at noon is not gonna work.
Like 11:30.
Yeah.
If I can get myself out of bed. All right.
But yeah, we will see you guys next week for some haunted objects.